My name is Dolores Cahill. My degree is molecular biology. My PhD is in immunology, and for over 20 years I've worked in the area of improved diagnosis of autoimmune disease and to uphold the highest standards in research and research integrity.
Okay, Dolores. So a hot topic at the moment is our inalienable rights. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so these are rights that every human being has from the moment that they are born, and they are, you can say, the whole area of around inalienable rights in a very short time. So it is that we as people, men and women, have inalienable rights to freedom of speech, freedom of travel, bodily integrity and access to justice. And part of, encompassed under freedom of speech is freedom of thought. And if you want to know what to think about something, and you have to speak to someone else. So the exercise of freedom of speech is also wrapped up in freedom of association, to meet other people, freedom of assembly, to peacefully protest. And these are all encompassed in freedom of travel. So really all of our inalienable rights can be encompassed either in freedom of speech or freedom of travel. And then we have an inalienable right to bodily integrity, which is very important, which means that no one can do anything to your body without your consent. And that consent has to be full and informed, which means someone has to tell you if there is a harm to whatever the intervention is and what the benefits is. So this is, if you do not get full informed consent, someone has actually committed the crime of battery, which for an ordinary person, if they do something to your body, or even if they're a doctor or a nurse, if you do not give full and informed consent, it's a crime of battery, which is 5 years in prison. And for example, if you do something to someone that is deemed not to be able to give consent, if they have dementia, then that is also a crime of battery.
Okay, so
which is 5 years in prison, irrespective of whether you're a doctor or a nurse or anyone associated with doing a medical intervention to someone without full informed consent, including to give information for adverse events, for example.
Okay, so there's a lot of fear circulating around at the moment, and especially if you want to leave your house, if you want to go to peacefully protest and exercise your inalienable and constitutional rights. What advice do you have for people who might meet checkpoints and the Gardaí?
Yeah, so these inalienable rights as well, what inalienable means is they can never be taken away from you. And because we've had them for thousands of years, they are not written down. And they cannot be ever taken away by anything that is written down. So we get these rights of freedom of speech, freedom of travel, bodily integrity and access to justice because we are men and women. So they are actually enshrined or just referred to in the Irish Constitution, but we do not get these rights from the Constitution. So in the preamble, it says that these rights are imprescriptible and that they can never be taken away from us. So currently we have a situation in Ireland and around the world that police officers are stopping people either walking on the street or in their cars, as we have in Ireland, and the police are actually interfering with people's exercise of our inalienable rights of freedom to travel. So this is actually for everyone in Ireland, for example. I was stopped 4 times yesterday. That the police have to be aware that they actually have no authority to interfere with people's freedom of travel. And this comes from that the police in Ireland are called the Guards, or the Garda Síochána, and they actually swear an oath that they will uphold the Irish Constitution. And in the preamble to the Constitution, it actually recognises that we have these inalienable rights, which include freedom of speech and freedom of travel. So, the guards in Ireland and the police all around the world are our brothers and sisters, as are the military, are all parts of our family. And actually when we, people like me, defend these rights, we are defending the rights also for the police and for the police's family and their children. So when the police are interacting with us, they could be interacting with their mother or their grandmother, for me, or for their loved ones. So the police in Ireland and around the world are actually committing unlawful behaviour if they interfere with freedom of travel. And so what I would say, if you are in Ireland and you're meeting the police to celebrate, for example, St. Patrick's Day, which I'm very happy to be involved, and to support in Ireland on the 17th of March, is that when the police stops you, you say, are you acting under oath? So that the person, if they are acting as a policeman, has actually sworn an oath to uphold our inalienable rights, including freedom of speech and freedom of travel. And the person that you meet, if they do not answer that question, then you don't know if they are a police officer just because they dress in a police uniform. That's not what makes them a police officer. And also, even if they give you your name and your number, they still have to say, are they acting under oath? And if they are acting under oath, and I would recommend that people going to rallies, not only on St. Patrick's Day, but all over the world, that they, have plenty space in their camera and record it. So you ask the policeman, are you acting under oath? And you can ask them 3 times. If they don't answer the question, then you say, really, I am free to go, because that interaction, they don't have any authority. If they then start asking you, what is the purpose of your journey, they have no right to ask that question, but you can say, for example, if you are in Ireland, that under Article 41, you have inalienable rights to, travel in Ireland and to have any engagement that is associated with the family. So you just say that you're engaged in a family matter or a vital family matter, and it is entirely unlawful for the police to be asking you what is your business. So I think you just ask the guards, if you were in Ireland going to St. Patrick's Day, are you acting under oath? They are required to say yes. And then if they ask you any further information, say that I'm on a vital family matter, and you don't have to give them, and you say, am I free to go? And if they then say you're not free to go, then the guard is actually committing a crime of unlawful detention.
Yeah, because they're in breach of their oath of office, right?
Yeah, because the police can only detain you and ask you in Ireland and around the world to provide evidence of who you are if they are suspecting that you have committed a crime. So I would say if Irish people should record it, and any conversation that they ask you about what is the purpose of your journey is unlawful. And so I am involved in this Project Accountability, and I would be saying for people going to rallies all around the world, asking them to record all of the interactions with the police. And if a policeman does not say they're acting under oath, if they do not respect your inalienable rights of freedom to travel, that we will be looking to charge all of the police or an example subset of the police where the weight of Project Accountability and which we are supported by the World Freedom Alliance around the world. Because for every minute that you have, are unlawfully detained, if they start asking you questions about the purpose of your journey, that the next thing you would say is that you as a driver would be holding the policeman in his role, ask him his name, in his private and personal capacity, that he is liable for any loss or any action that happens after that. And of course, unlawful detention is not only unlawful, but it's potentially a crime. And that we have to have it that if the police are committing criminal behaviour, that people who are driving in their cars, for example, to celebrate St. Patrick's Day, that we will go behind those people, they record the conversation, and the police will have to be charged with criminal behaviour. And if that is not happening through the Irish system and the Irish courts, then we have to look at setting up, courts that actually hold people to account. And we cannot have anyone in Ireland committing crimes and not being held to account. And if they are dressing in police uniforms, or if they are actually the Garda Síochána, or any of the police in the world, everyone has to be held to account for their actions. And, as you know, there are other rallies that are going to happen this weekend, and we want all of the peaceful protesters attending these rallies around the world to bring their cameras, collect the evidence, and to extend Project Accountability to every country in the world.
And how do people get this information to you?
So I'm setting up Project Accountability. It's under the Custodian project that I'm doing in Ireland, custodian.com. It's going to take us maybe 2 months or so to set it up. So what we would recommend is that people record it, make sure that they have a lot of recording capacity on their mobile phones, and also to talk into the phone as it's happening, So for example, if I was to ask a guard 3 times, are you acting under oath? That then when the recording is happening, if you're in the car or if you're at a rally, that you would actually record in and say that the man that is presenting as a police officer in uniform has not actually answered the question 3 times. You know, that you actually record and give evidence as it's going on. And I would recommend that people would make a report and type it to themselves and also email it to themselves. And we will set up within custodian.com a mailing list for people to actually upload the evidence in the next weeks to come.
Okay, that's a powerful step forward. What's happening on March 20th?
So on March 20th, in more than 50 countries in the world, is called World Freedom and Democracy Day. And this was actually set up that the people in Germany, in Kassel, actually decided that they would hold a peaceful rally on March the 20th, which is around, as we know, the equinox. And it's the coming of spring and coming into summer. And now there are more than 50 countries in the world that are actually having rallies all around the world for World Freedom and Democracy Day. And the World Freedom Alliance is very happy to be supporting it. And as you know, I'm president of the World Freedom Alliance. But we actually have, pillars in the World Freedom Alliance, not only of science and medicine, but also security, as well as banking and looking at innovation and education. And we have a pillar for all of the lawyers in the world. That we, in the security team, we have heard that there are tactics now being used by the police forces all around the world, which we saw, for example, in Trafalgar Square in July 2020, where the police were actually sadly assaulting peaceful protesters, and this was all captured on video. So even though all of the protests are designed on March 20th, it's really an uprising of the world to actually stand up for freedom and democracy and accountability. So we need that if there is any infringements of people's inalienable rights, so these rallies are essentially freedom of speech, freedom of travel, and to uphold bodily integrity, that people need to record any incidents that happen in these rallies, and collectively around the world we will put the weight of all of the people around the world, potentially in precedence cases, in a number of example countries. So I suppose in Ireland we could actually start in taking that maybe we will put the weight of the initiative of Project Accountability behind 5 or 10 cases where the police are explicitly doing something that is unlawful in relation to travelling or attending, we say, the St. Patrick's Day rallies or March the 20th. And then we would use those as precedence cases. And then people can actually, if the policemen are actually charged with unlawful behaviour, or if they are liable in a financial, and we win in court, to hold them to account and to financially compensate people which they have harmed, then that people can file similar cases so that all of the police that carry out any unlawful behaviour on either March the 17th or March 20th around the world will be held to account. And I suppose that in general is holding individuals that are doing unlawful or criminal behaviour is the only way that we are going to end the lockdown. And just to say to everyone, we either end the lockdown in, at some stage, we will have to now go and actually defend our rights. I think for the last year, people have been in shock about what's going on and reacting to the various waves that have happened, whether it is, the police increasingly being more aggressive. But now we have to actually not just be responding, we have to move into an accountability phase and say that whether it's from the Prime Minister down to the Minister for Health or the Minister for Justice or doctors or teachers, that what is going on is entirely unnecessary. It's a breach of our inalienable rights and our fundamental rights, and we're just going to hold individuals to account, and that's the only way we will stop it.
Okay. So our patron saints day is coming up March 17th, and there's a lot of Irish people scattered around the world. So what would your message be to them?
Well, I think, I think it was around 500,000 sadly left Ireland after the financial crash around 2009, 2010. And a special message I would like to say is that, we actually are trying to rebuild Ireland anew, and we are trying to build up villages and towns in Ireland so that not just the 500,000 people that have left in the last 10 years, but that we actually are very proud of the Irish that have sadly, sometimes they wanted to leave our shores, and oftentimes they had to do it for financial reasons, or people might be second or third generation Irish. And as you may know, I'm very honoured to have bought White Castle in Athy. I am the plan is to renovate it, not really for me, but for the nation of Ireland. And in a way, I bought it as a symbol that all of the people who are rooted in Ireland would have somewhere that they could come to. And I think, you know, what I would ask the Irish people is to light a candle, you know, in the evening for St. Patrick's Day, that we would remember our extended diaspora and all of the generations that have had to leave our shores, and that they would actually, you know, maybe even pray for us in Ireland, and we will extend love to them and they would extend love to us, so that together I think we can really only push back on the lockdown by actually forgiving in a way what has happened, acknowledging that huge harm has been done, but for the Irish people of the world to extend a hand of love, you know, and of friendship around the world on St. Patrick's Day, for them to actually reflect on Ireland, to realise that all Irish people and their descendants and diaspora have a home in Ireland, and that Ireland does need help now to try and push back to what is going on in Ireland and all aspects of the lockdown, and to children and to businesses and to the elderly in the care homes and elderly who are isolated at home. In Ireland we are building, I'm very proud, a movement that is extended for all corners of Ireland, including in the north. The ordinary people of Ireland are coming together, and we have decided that we need to renew our friendship. We can only really fight what's going on by opening our hearts to extending forgiveness and actually to build bridges for people who we may have been disagreed in the last year, and that together we can recognise what's going on, hold people to account, stop it, and we're already building a movement to build a new and wonderful world across the world, but also in Ireland. So I'd like to actually wish everyone a happy St. Patrick's Day, and my hope is that next St. Patrick's Day, St. Patrick's Day 2022, we will have the biggest St. Patrick's Day in Ireland, and that we can all celebrate looking at this lockdown as a historically the worst mistake in the world, and that we will all work together in the World Freedom Alliance, the World Doctors Alliance, and you know, centred in Ireland to build a wonderful new world in the decades to come.
Dolores Cahill, thank you very much for your time, and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Kate. It was lovely to be interviewed by you. Thank you.